Number one Ibble Dibble here. Hello, friends. I hope you're all well. It's been a couple days because I've been watching Live to Lead. I am doing a 2-video review of the series. This is part 1, where I'm talking about the scandals surrounding it and commenting generally on its structure and quality. In my second video, part 2, I will be discussing the life lessons the filmmakers intended to teach before H&M ever got involved with the project, and pointing out where I think H&M could really benefit from learning them. I often wonder if they're unaware of their hypocrisy, as in they really don't see the difference between the morals they supposedly espouse and how they themselves behave, or if they are do as I say, not as I do people. And this project is just the TV producer version of them telling us to watch our carbon footprint while they fly the world in private jets. Obviously, there's been a lot of scandal about this, most of it stemming from the fact that it's just not a good look for Meghan and Harry to keep associating themselves with the name Nelson Mandela after that really dumb lie she told about South Africans dancing in the street during her wedding to Harry, like they did when Mandela was freed from jail. This lie, calling the house where she was staying a fire trap housing project, and someone on her staff who didn't like her and got fired, leaking to the press that Meghan refused to wear her good jewelry in South Africa because she thought people would literally rip it off her hands, were the 3 strikes that launched Footsec Meghan, and she should be out. What's she doing here? What's she doing on the field? Beyond the optics, the project is also getting some bad press. Nelson Mandela's granddaughter, who says that their family made no money from the documentary, she seems to have a gripe with the business plans of both the Nelson Mandela Foundation and the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Telling The Times, quote, "I know the Nelson Mandela Foundation has supported the initiative, but people have stolen grandfather's quotes for years and have used his legacy because they know his name sells. Harry and Meghan are no different from them. I admire Harry for having the confidence to break away from an institution as iconic as the royal family. Granddad rebelled against an arranged marriage to find his own path in life, but it comes at a price. You have to then fund your own life. I've made peace with people using Granddad's name, but it's still deeply upsetting and tedious every time it happens." End quote. Oh, that is not a good look. Honestly, I'm not sure if, how, or how much the Nelson Mandela Foundation is supposed to directly support his family members. So I don't know if she really has a leg to stand on there. But this was a fail, not only in terms of PR, but professional networking. They should have called everybody even tangentially associated with the project. And manners. Obviously, they should have contacted the family. This is just bad manners. She's the neighbor you forgot to invite to your party. And she's not the only one to denounce and distance herself from this. Perhaps more embarrassingly, Jacinda Ardern, who actually stars in the documentary, put out a statement saying, quote, "In early March 2019, the Prime Minister was approached by the Mandela Foundation to participate in a project to develop accessible resources on key attributes of leadership targeted at aspiring young leaders around the world, based off a 1-hour interview. In May this year, the Prime Minister's office was notified that the Duke and Duchess of Sussex would introduce the series, noting this was nearly 2.5 years after the interview had been recorded and permission for its use by the Mandela Foundation had already been provided. All communication throughout has been with the foundation. There has been no communications with the Duke and Duchess of Sussex regarding the project," end quote. You know, I thought they were better at this. Speaking of the Lion King premiere, the way Harry worked Bob Iger and the way he pushes Meghan in the Netflix series to respond to Beyoncé's text with a phone call.
Beyonce just texted. Really meant.
Shut up.
Just checking in.
Go and call her.
I thought he was more of a connector, baby. I assumed he would call all the interview subjects and play nice, at least making the gesture of asking for their approval, although everybody involved would know they had bought the rights anyway. I'm really surprised that Meghan, the professional networker, also failed in this regard. And it really matters in this situation because Meghan and Harry, and I hope the Mandela Foundation, are the only ones profiting from this. The leaders they interviewed were not paid appearance fees. They thought they were doing something nice for charity for the Nelson Mandela Foundation, not to line a Duke and Duchess's pockets. As I'm sure you've already heard, H&M had zero creative contribution to this project. They bought it from a company called Synetic, which bills itself as an industry-shaping financier of independent films. Basically, they're matchmakers. Producers looking to finance something with no prospects can go to them. Creators with a mostly finished product that still requires a little bit of financing, a little bit of finishing, can sell products to them to be repackaged by these producers. In their own words, Synetic, quote, specializes in both all rights distribution sales and in customizing media by media licensing. Though we are renowned for being a key driver in identifying and crafting progressive partnerships and distribution strategies with both traditional distributors and emerging platforms, end quote. So scandals aside, honestly, I couldn't even get through the trailer comments on YouTube. It was too much. Scandals aside, let's talk about the documentary. Let's talk about the product. H&M are absolutely using their participation to promote themselves. There's simply no reason for them to figure in this series at all. They do the title sequence, introduce each episode in a minute or less. That's it. Here's an example.
The legacy that New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern is building stems from a belief in never losing her capacity for empathy.
This was inspired by Nelson Mandela, who once said, "What counts in life is not the mere fact that we have lived.
It is what difference we have made to the lives of others that will determine the significance of the life we lead."
His life left a lasting mark on the world, a legacy that has helped inspire so many others to stand up.
To fight for change and to become leaders.
So this is in memory of Mandiba.
It was made to remind us of the difference one person can make.
It's about people who have made brave choices, leaders who have walked alongside him and followed in his footsteps.
Caring for others, working for a better and more equal world.
And giving inspiration to the rest of us to live, to lead.
Apart from wondering how Meghan can say this with a straight face,
it is what difference we have made to the lives of others that will determine the significance of the life we lead.
I suppose I'm indifferent to their presence. Although, obviously, I wish they would put their money where their mouth is and not their mouth where the money is. Also, someone needs to tell them that Harry looks good head on, Meghan needs 3/4. Do you find it offensive that they just need to have their faces slapped on this? Or is it just tiresome? Is it just so H&M at this point? As for the interviews themselves, the original concept, which they actually don't explain sufficiently, was to interview leaders who embody the spirit of Nelson Mandela in their morals and energy. Originally, 15 people were interviewed. They agreed for these interviews to be taped and put out as short, free videos. They also agreed for their interviews to be published in a book to benefit the Nelson Mandela Foundation. For this series, only 8 interviewees were included. Each interview is perhaps 25 minutes, so the entire thing is about 3 hours. I don't know why H&M imagine that their own story is doubly interesting and worthy of devoting double the time to. I would have preferred seeing 6 hours of this project and 0 hours of Harry and Meghan, but here we are. The interviews are good. They are moving. I was brought to tears multiple times. If you can get over your dislike of H&M, the series is worth watching. And it very much centers on this fantastic group of leaders giving honest advice about how to live your life, be a good person, and make an impact. Of course, this all contrasts sharply with how spoiled, selfish, self-centered, and cheap H&M are and the way they live their lives, which is another reason I think if they had any self-awareness, they would have not edited this to include them. I was able to pick out 7 really good life lessons here that H&M should take to heart. So please join me tomorrow when I cover the lessons and how H&M's actions, unfortunately, are speaking louder than their words. Toodles! Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.